My name is Pamela Board. I am a current member of the Board of Directors of the Montgomery Village Foundation, and I am moderator of this Candidates Forum. I'd like to welcome you to the 2019 Candidates Forum for the election of the Montgomery Village Foundation Board of Directors. As you know, there are 3 openings on this board. We have 4 candidates. Unfortunately, Ms. Ladipo was unable to be here this evening. So each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an introductory statement, maybe a little longer since there aren't a lot of people here. Maybe not. Then I will select people from the audience to ask questions. We should be limited to approximately a minute in length. The candidates will then have a minute to respond. If you wish to ask your question of a particular candidate, you may do so, but I will also ask the other candidates to respond to the question. Otherwise, we'll just start at one end and work down and back. There will be no closing statements, and people can ask more than one question, but only once we get through everyone being able to ask one question. So, how would you like to give your opening statement?
All right. Good evening. My name is Scott Dyer. I'm a 14-year resident of Montgomery Village and a lifelong resident of Montgomery County, Maryland. My wife, Joy Krause Dyer, who grew up in the village, and I married in 2005. We started off living in Christopher Court condominiums before moving to East Village and finally to Northgate. During our time in East Village, both Joy and I served as elected directors in the East Village Homes Corporation Board of Directors. I'm currently an elected director of the Montgomery Village Foundation's Board of Directors and seeking re-election this year. I've volunteered in other capacities, including notably as an instructor for Junior Achievement, which included as a classroom instructor for 6th graders at Montgomery Village Middle School. I've also coached basketball and soccer. Beyond this, I bring over 12 years of current experience in finance and customer service as a vice president for JP Morgan Chase. I have prior applicable experience as a realtor for Long & Foster, including in the former Montgomery Village office, in the state government, as well as in the federal government. My priorities for the next 3 years are to continue to ensure residents' interests, concerns, and ideas are heard and advocated to our county and state elected officials, as well as to the MVF board, to continue to protect our local environment, to continue to provide support for services and activities for our seniors aging in place, to continue to support and partner with our local schools and businesses, as well as our local police, to continue to upkeep the community and modernize architectural standards, to continue to embrace our community's cultural and economic diversity, to continue to plan for the future so that the village can own its own destiny, to continue to promote the positives of the village, both internally and externally, and above all, to continue to always put the village residents first. I thank you for the trust and opportunity given to serve you, and I ask again for your vote to continue to represent you over the next 3 years. Thank you.
Andrea?
Thank you, Scott. Good evening. I want to thank everyone who is here tonight. Some residents, whoever here is a family member, and obviously the candidates. My name is Andrew Bird, and I'm a resident of Whetstone. I live in Whetstone. I live with my partner, Zoe. She grew up in Montgomery Village. Together, we have 5 children, and we plan to raise them here in Montgomery Village. My professional background is diverse and eclectic. This is my first time seeking election for the Board of Directors. I currently serve as a program strategy manager for social content and governance for brand-focused social media at Capital One. Prior to this, I was a media analyst for the United States Marine Corps Communications Directorate at the Pentagon. And while there, I led a project that changed public opinion and institutional policies regarding gender equality, gender integration, and inclusion for women Marines. I also have served as a management analyst for Glenstone Art Foundation. I was a media coordinator at Discovery Communications, and I did serve 9 years in the Marine Corps, where I was a unit leader overseas, a Marine Corps officer, instructor, and a recruiter. As a director of Montgomery Village Foundation, I will bring a very diverse, logical, organized, and pragmatic approach to my conduct, questions, and my decisions. I am volunteering to serve the community I enjoy. It's a community my family loves, and a community I believe has a great future ahead of it. And through service, I want to be a part of that. And the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, and I hope that I can do that for Montgomery Village. So thank you, and I look forward to all of the questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Danielle?
Good evening. I'm Danielle Ayers. I am a 6-year resident of Montgomery Village. I live in the South Village Homes Corporation, and I am currently the serving president of South Village Homes Corporation. I have served on the board for about 4 years now, first as treasurer and now as president. In terms of my professional background, I have worked for the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for more than 15 years now as a financial manager. The mission of that particular institute is to research current infectious diseases and to develop vaccines, not just for U.S. residents, but for those across the world. And I believe that service in that area is extremely important, and one of the reasons why I continue to work in the federal government. I'm also a small business owner, and am coming up on my 10th year in business, so pretty excited about that. I am a doctoral student with a business management concentration at the University of Phoenix. I anticipate completing that degree very soon. It's been quite a lot of work and exciting work. I've opted to run for the board to continue my service to my community. I really enjoy Montgomery Village. The people, the residents, the location, the area have all been wonderful for me and my family. My family of 2 daughters, my son-in-law and my grandson, we all enjoy the things that the village has to offer, and I would like to continue to grow those things with our state and county partners, with the other directors on the foundation board, and obviously with my South Village Homes Corporation directors. Thank you.
Well, I will open the floor for questions for the candidates. Please raise your hands if you want to ask a question. Jane? No, you can go. Go up to the podium and tell everyone your name and where you live. To the podium, Jane, so that people can hear you. That's okay. I know.
Okay, my name is Jane Wilder. I live in South Village. I'm an active environmentalist, and I'm a professional journalist. And we moved to Montgomery Village because of the beautiful environment and wildlife, and have done everything we could in the over 30 years we've been here to preserve that. One of my chief interests is the wildlife, and we have a coexistence with wildlife policy here that officially was voted on unanimously in 2001, and we had a forum on this and spent the Environment Committee, which I've been very active on, We had a forum, elaborate study with the aid of professional organizations and government organizations, Humane Society of the United States, et cetera. The forum was conducted to a full house. It was recorded if I can say the word, audibly recorded, and the document, I still have a copy of it. It's a lengthy document, and we studied the issue from all angles. Conflicts potentially with the wildlife that we have, geese, beavers, deer, multiple species of birds, etc. And in our research, we learned additional ways to what we had for coexisting with wildlife.
Do you have a question, Jane? For the
Yes. Do you
candidates?
approve of this policy with the ability of the residents, for example, to fence things against beavers, clean walks when the geese are flightless, and provisions against deer being where they shouldn't be? Do you approve of the coexistence with wildlife policy?
Jane, I'll start off by saying that yes, I do support the coexistence with wildlife policy. I thought to tie that in, there of the 8 committees that I've served on while I've been on MVF, their Committee on the Environment's actually been the longest one I've been on, and it's actually really fascinating because of the depth of knowledge and expertise on the environment that we have in the village on that committee there, and it's been an eye-opening experience. Enjoyed the opportunity to take nature walks with the committee there and learned about of our natural resources in the village there, but also we've been able to do great things like with the Arbor Day celebration there, to have events that spotlighted why it's important to protect our animals, why it's important to protect North Creek and Lake Whetstone there, not only for our generation but for future generations. So I appreciate everything you're doing, everything Rich Wilder's doing, everything that committee's doing there, and I hope over the next 3 years I'll continue to be on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Jane, I appreciate the question, and I'm with Scott as well. I agree with the policy for the coexistence of wildlife. I live in Whetstone, and it's one of the things that I like about Whetstone is that I can walk outside and I can feel like I don't live in the middle of Montgomery County, and then there's just a lot of wildlife there, and we really enjoy it. Me and my family, we enjoy walking around, and I'm just going to say yes. I agree with that policy. Don't need to say any more.
Thank you for your question, Jane. I do support the policy. I grew up in a big city where we didn't have much wildlife, and that is one of the things that I enjoy most about living here in the village. I live very close to the lake, and it's nice to be able to see all of the wildlife here. And now that my grandbaby is growing up, that I can take him down and we can enjoy the same. And I would like to. You've given me some ideas about some things I need to think about for the South Village. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Does anyone else have a question for the candidates? Reg? Can you come up? If you can speak loudly, you can stay where you are.
Oh, all right. I don't mind getting that. Thank you. My question is, how do you feel, this is for all candidates, how do you feel about discussion of issues in the village news and discussion of village issues like we normally do, letters to the editor in the village news, and also the village website but not allow people to discuss, to keep this discussion away from social media. In other words, stay away from Facebook and everything else. And we all know the problems there. There's privacy issues. There's fake news, I guess. There's a lot of different things happen on social media. And so I think our communications department has said that a lot of this back and forth stuff that's been going on in the past, I guess, be discussed in social media. I think we ought to stay away from social media. That's my own opinion. And I just wondered how everyone here feels about that.
Danielle, would you start, please?
Okay, I certainly will. So thank you for your question, Rich. I am actually excited about social media. I understand your concerns about privacy and about the tone of conversations on social media. I think social media is an effective communication tool. One of the things that I know, having millennial children, working in a multi-generational agency and organization, and even with my customer base, and even as a student, is that we receive information much differently now throughout all of the things that we do. Social media can be used to engage dialogue. It can be used to provide information. It can simply be a tool that other people, where we can share information. I think for the type of community that we have, and such a diverse community, it's an important tool because it can be used for all of those types of things. I certainly understand people's concerns regarding privacy, and I would absolutely suspect and know that our legal department, communication department, and the entire foundation board would make sure that we follow all guidelines to ensure privacy for residents, as well as protect the foundation's actual content and protect it legally. So, thank you for your question.
Andrew?
Can I ask him a question to kind of clarify what he was asking? Are you more concerned about correspondence in the Village News making it onto social media for, like, let's say you're...
No, I think it should be kept there
Okay.
and stay away from social media.
Okay.
Period.
Okay. So the question is what do we feel specifically about social media then, as it pertains to village issues? Okay. Well, I think social media is a very valuable tool. There's various methods of social media. You have different channels. You have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There's probably some that I don't even know about yet. But each one is developed to reach a particular group of people, in age, race, culture, all of that. Some people may not read, the Village News, and I think that it's important that we communicate as effectively as possible. If people don't want to be on social media, they don't have to. That's your privacy. That's your right to do that. But if people want to find out stuff about the village, some only find out on Facebook, some find out on the Village News. I think it's important that Montgomery Village Foundation uses all ways to reach everyone in the community.
Thank you. Scott?
Rich, I would say that my time on the board there, it's been looking at how to strike an effective balance between where things are heading towards more electronic interaction versus the printed newspapers, the in-person interaction. And one of the things I learned both before I was on the board as well as when I'm currently on the board, we have an outstanding communications department, the foundation, as well as an outstanding committee, the communications committee that works with them. I had opportunity to serve on that committee for a while. We've done a lot to improve the social media outreach, update the website there, and that has helped get word out about events, classes, board meetings, other happenings in the village. But it doesn't take the place of discussions like this, actual in-person discussions, coming to the board meetings, fourth Thursday of every month there. But I'd love to see more of that in-person interaction. I've floated the idea that I'd love to see a quarterly, just a more casual interaction with the residents, bring it around to each of the community centers to just hear from the residents there. Not have a time limit, not have a set day, but let's bring people together, because there's a lot of great ideas. We're fortunate the many volunteers that serve on the committees there, and those that step forward to be on the boards, both the HOAs of MVF. There's so many people out there that want to be heard, so many people that want their concerns addressed there, and that's something that I'm looking forward to continuing to focus on over the next 3 years. Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Jane, do you have another question?
Yes.
That's perfectly okay. Okay, you can stay where you are.
This relates to that same subject. I'm very concerned about, there are lawsuits all over the world on social media. Things are going, people don't know what their privacy rights are, and they don't know that they have them. And we are encouraging people to use social media, and I'm wondering if there's going to be a class action lawsuit at some point that's going to involve the village, and we are pushing this as an alternative and going back on our printed communication. And I don't want to be someone paying in that lawsuit. We do not have Facebook, etc. And also, you're requiring people to have a computer, and that costs money. And I remember before we used to have a very lively letters to the editor section of the Village News, and it was very popular, and I miss that. Now you get one letter and you're lucky. And
Do you have a question, Jane?
the question is concern about future liability. The more you hear every day, there's something breaking open with social media, Facebook, other forms of that. What about the possible monetary damage to residents with pushing this?
Thank you, Jane. Andrew, would you like to?
Yeah, I work in social media, and I understand a lot of your concerns. A lot of times, people are hesitant to join social media, and it can be kind of an interesting place if you don't have a computer or you're not very knowledgeable on something. I would like to talk to you afterwards, if I could, about some of your concerns that maybe some of the other residents have as well. But my answer to that is social media is not required. It is definitely something that you volunteer to do. Montgomery Village Foundation utilizes the social media as a tool. It's just another tool in the toolbox to reach a different group of people. And this is an inclusive community, and we need to keep it that way. So we need to be able to use all the tools in the toolbox to reach as many residents as possible. If someone doesn't want to use social media, they don't have to, and we still have the Village News.
Scott?
So, Jane, in terms of the social media, I totally agree with Andrew. It has always been a tool, and it's been an outreach tool. The focus has been the messages going out from the village to inform those that are already on social media. There hasn't been an attempt to try to recruit anyone to join any particular social media. It's a group of individuals that are being reached that previously hadn't been reached. There's no interest in eliminating the village newspaper, and in fact, there's still the printed village paper. While it's been reduced down, there's an electronic version that's now available on the website to reach another audience there. I understand your concern on the letters to the editor there. I think the letters sometimes could be helpful from the standpoint of hearing messages, but it didn't allow for a dialogue there. So a concern would be raised, and then you'd end up having to wait to have a response from someone else writing a letter there in the following paper, and it didn't create a dialogue there. I think there's a lot of value in kind of, going through these issues in person. We get emails, we get letters there, but there's all these channels are being utilized there to get that feedback, but there's no interest in eliminating the opportunity for those that are not on social media, not using email, to still be able to communicate with the board, the staff, or other residents.
Danielle?
So, Jane, I certainly understand your concern. I will say to you that I am an active social media user. You did hear me say that I am a federal employee, and during my career, my information has been stolen several times, and one of those times being from the Office of Personnel Management. However, that is something that I had to provide to them as a condition of my employment. That does not mean that I expected, nor did they expect, that there would be a breach. I'm sure that they did everything that they thought was required to ensure my privacy and the safety of my information. As Andy and Scott have both said, our social media tool is a communication and information tool. I'm excited about the social media content right now. I like the pictures. I like the information that's there. I like getting the text messages when things are canceled. I did mention before that I'm sure that the social media department, as well as our legal department, will work together to mitigate our risk as well. I don't think that we would certainly want to put anyone's information in jeopardy. I know that the Village News is not going away, although its delivery may have been reduced. It is still a tool and something that's going to be provided, and certainly you're welcome to contribute content, and I think that we're going to be just fine using social media.
I'm concerned I made the same mistakes as everybody else, and I think other people would have these social media things and computer access are getting more for their money than I am. So that's basically
Are there any more questions? Rich?
I noticed during board meetings on the voting items that are put on an agenda sheet, if you look at the agenda sheet, there's not a lot of information on there that you can really understand what's going on. Now, if you get the packet, which we do, it has all the information in the packet. My question is, how do you feel, this is for all candidates, how do you feel about having a little bit more, when you present an issue, present the pros and cons of that issue, just in a very succinct way, and then because I have a feeling that a lot of residents don't understand what's going on there. They don't have the packet, and also some of the people on the board, I don't know, unless they read the packet, they might not understand all the issues either. Now, I know the staff does a lot of background work there and everything else, but I'd like to see a little bit more discussion in the board. A lot of it's somebody makes a motion, approve or not approve, and then there's the vote taken, very little discussion, if any. And now one or two people do discuss things, but most people don't. So how do you feel about having a little bit more information in there so that people can understand what the issue really is.
Danielle, will you take a stab at this?
Sure. So, I, as the current president of the South Village Homes Corporation, I understand that our agenda includes an overview of the items being discussed, specifically those things that are public and can be made public. And I understand that a lot of the information, excuse me, that's part of the meeting can often or should be part of something that is an executive time. While I am not currently serving on the foundation board, I suspect that the agenda is developed in the same way. What's public information is available. But I think an agenda is an overview and a guideline, an outline of the way the meetings should flow. So while it would be nice to maybe have more information, I think that it really is just an outline and probably will be reduced in order to, based on the content of the meeting and what's going to happen. So I don't suspect that, I don't know how to approach the change to an agenda.
I think I'll insert myself here. With the exception of Scott, who has seen more board packages than he probably wants to, Andrew and Danielle have not really seen the board packages that are prepared for the foundation board. And they do differ from the style of the South Village packages. I think what Rich was talking about was that, we have the agenda, which lists out the agenda items, including the subject matter of the various items we must consider, and then backing that up are memos prepared by the staff, which lays out the factors that are to be considered, and the staff's recommendation in the case of a purchase. Will be given various bids on that purchase, but the staff has researched it all and makes a recommendation now. And I think what Rich is saying is that we should provide more information to people, and there should be more discussion during the meeting among the board members for the benefit of the residents. So I just threw that in.
Thank you.
Andrew.
I think I was able to attend the one meeting and look through the package, and they are very big. And I think I understand what you're saying, that maybe there needs to be a bit more context sometimes and understanding what's going on at a board meeting. But I think pragmatically speaking, it would be very hard to provide that much conversation when board members have the opportunity to look through the material beforehand and come up with kind of what their vote is going to be. That if the board provided too much context, there wouldn't be enough time for the residents to stand and voice their opinion on matters that are important as well. Just because it is a very kind of, it needs to be an expedited once a month type of thing. You can't get through everything. But I do understand what you're looking for, so finding the balance between that kind of context and giving time to the residents and all the other things that go along might be a bit difficult.
So if I could add in, the packets are provided in advance with the instruction to let staff know if there's any particular questions on the information in advance of the meeting, to try to prep staff. So give an example there. If we had an item there where it was going to be something for the recreation department, Duncan would come and he would speak to the board and present and clarify. So for some of the items, you'll get that overview at the board meeting there. So for the benefit of the residents, they'll hear that. a lot of times we try to ask those questions in advance. Sometimes, the more you think about it, you might come back with a question, that day there, and we'll mention at the board meeting, but a lot of times we've already reviewed the information there, and while I try to keep an open mind going into it, because sometimes there's going to be that discussion there, I'm not going to say, definitely one way or another how I'm going to vote before the meeting, because some of that interaction might lead to a different decision to be made on it. I agree, in thinking back before I was on the board, going to the board meetings, they have a copy of the agenda sitting there, and that's really, unless you're requesting one of the packets, that's all you're seeing. So you're sitting there and you're following and you're seeing, okay, this item's coming up with a bid, and it's very quickly gone through because everyone's already looked over the information, they've come to a decision there. So some of it can move very quick, whereas some, will be going on for, 10 minutes. They're discussing something back and forth, so it can vary. I agree, we could look at, whether the memo or such, perhaps it could be up on the screen or something, something we could look into further, of how it could better explain what's going on for the residents attending.
Are there more questions? Reg? Okay.
This one is, I try to go to as many concerts, and we have a great amphitheater there. We have a lot of nice concerts there, and a lot of times, that there's very few people come there. And how do you feel about trying to get more people to come to these concerts? Because we're very lucky to have free concerts, and especially when you have military bands, stuff like that, you have the best in the nation. And and a lot of times I don't see a lot of board members there. So my question is, how do we get more people to appreciate these concerts and get them out there?
Scott?
So at the last board meeting, it was announced there that we were going to look to consolidate down to put more effort into doing more with less shows in the coming season there, because it's looking at, if you have this whole agenda there of concerts and they're on Sundays, there, you could have a rain out, you could have 90-degree temperatures, you could just have a group that just didn't draw as many people as we expected there. So it's looking at, what worked well. The biggest draw was the Reagan years, and that drew not just village residents, but people from outside the village who had the opportunity to interact with village residents and experience the village, some for the first time, some they've come back from a previous year coming to a concert there. So it's trying to look at, what worked well there, what we should put our budget towards. We're extremely lucky to have that outdoor theater, and it's looking at how we could maximize it. When I was on the 50th anniversary committee, we tried to look at, what could we do to really kind of up the game there with those concerts. And that's with the Reagan years, that was kind of going outside the box. We changed up the venue even there the first time to see, would that draw more people? So we're always taking feedback. We're always trying to improve upon it. But I enjoy going to the concerts. It doesn't always work schedule-wise, but we are trying to change it to where it's on a Saturday, see if that draws more people. We have the outdoor movie that brings in an entirely different audience. So it's trying to have things that pull in various audiences, because we have such a diverse village there, and we really want something for everyone.
Danielle?
I like the idea of the concerts. I like the idea of the concerts, and I was excited to hear about the upcoming season. I think advertising to the community, outside of the community, is definitely going to be one way to increase attendance and participation. I like the idea of having a schedule, a full season schedule available so that people could know potential dates of the concerts and movies so that they could plan their schedule to attend. I also think that it's an opportunity for residents to share their feedback about who they'd like to see performing in the village and what types of events that they'd like, and that could help guide the recreation department and the board in order to be able to provide that type of entertainment.
Thank you, Danielle.
Well, I think right now is a good opportunity to thank Duncan for his presentation at the last board meeting. He did an amazing job basically presenting what's potentially going to work based on the data, which is great. Data's good. I think his plan to focus on making events bigger and better by making them more focused and not having as many is a great thing. I think that leveraging the communication department and coming up with some good ideas on reaching people. I mean, most of the people who are going to come to concerts are going to have children as well. Get out there and run around. They're going to be on social media. You want to get out there and bring them in because they'll come and then they'll spend money on all the other things that are at the events. The second question is because there was a second question in there, is I think it's the responsibility of the board members to talk among themselves who's going to represent the board at particular events. That way there is representation there. And I look forward to those as well. So,
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Are there any mailed questions? Nope. Well, in that case, I think I will call this forum to a close. And thank you all,
thank you.
candidates, for coming, and thank you to everyone who is here. It's a cold night. I believe it will be, and it will be on YouTube. And where else will it be, Mike?
It'll be posted on YouTube or on the website or on Facebook, Twitter, or social media. But yes, it'll be transcribed and put in the village.
It will be in the paper, yes. And tell your friends and neighbors who didn't come that they missed a very exciting time.